Isang araw ay naglalakad at naglilibot ang tatlong magkakaibigan. At isa na dito si Mike Carlo Makayang. Ngunit ito na pala ang huli nilang pagkikita na magkakaibigan nang maganapang isang kalunos-lunos at isang malagim na pangyayari kay Mike Carlo Makayang na nasabing biktima ng isang pagpatay. Alamin natin kung ano ba ang talagang motibo sa nasabing pagpatay kay Mike Carlo Makayang.
Pare, bisa mo, tara na.
Sa ating lahat, ngayon po ay makikita po natin ang isang kabataan na walang awang pinatay at sinaksak. Inaalam pa ang motibo sa krimen. Kasalukuyang iniimbestigahan ng ating kapulisan kung ano ang nangyari at kung ano ang motibo sa mismo nasabing krimen.
According to the police investigators, the culprit has been identified by its fingerprint and its DNA. Before the victim died, he's trying to fight back, but it's too late for him. So it is the end of his life.
Mga kuya, magandang tanghali po sa inyong dalawa. Kayo po ba si Justin Velasco at si John Renzi Barayuga?
Yes, sir.
Kayo po ay mayroong warrant of arrest. Kasalang pagpatay sa isang binatilyo.
Hindi po namin alam yun, sir. Wala po akong alam yun.
Ayon po sa investigasyon, kayo po ay na-identify na nagkasala sa batas, kasalang pagpatay dahil nakita po sa crime scene ng inyong fingerprint at ang DNA sa pagpatay. Kayo po ay pinakatulang at pinakaniyahan sa aming departamento upang gawin magpaniwala. Tara na po.
So, regarding to the lesson 5 under Criminology and Forensic Science, let's talk about or tackle regarding the fingerprints. So, who is the first to advocate the use of fingerprinting in order to identify the criminal suspect? So, Sir William Herschel was one of the first to advocate the use of fingerprinting in order to identify the criminal suspects. While working for the Indian Civil Service, he began to use thumb printing on documents as a security measure to prevent the then rampant repudiation of signatures in 1858. In 1880, Dr. Henry Plowds, a Scottish surgeon in a Tokyo hospital, published his first paper on the subject in the scientific journal. The usefulness of fingerprints for identification and proposing a methods to record them with printing ink. So, let's move on to Francis Galton. Who is Francis Galton? Francis Galton, who was interested in anthropology, having been thus inspired to study fingerprints for 10 years. Galton published a detailed statistical model of fingerprint analysis and identifications and encouraged its use in forensic science. In his book, Fingerprints, he had calculated the use of forensic science that the change of a false positive, two different individuals having the same fingerprints, was about 1 in 64 million. So, in terms of fingerprint, Juan Bucetic, an Argentine chief police officer, created the first methods of recording the fingerprints of individuals on files in 1892. After studying Galton's pattern types, Busitik, set up the world's first fingerprinting bureau. So now, who is Azizul Haque and Hem Chandra Bose, the and also known as the forgotten heroes in terms of fingerprinting? Haque and Bose were Indian fingerprints experts who had been credited with the primary development of a fingerprint classification system, eventually named after their supervisor. So now let's proceed to Sir Edward Richard Henry. The Henry classification system, co-devised by Haque and Bose, was accepted in England and Wales when the first United Kingdom Fingerprint Bureau was found in Scotland Yard. The Metropolitan Police Headquarters, London, in 1901, Sir Edward Richard Henry subsequently achieved improvements in dactyloscopy. In the United States, Dr. Henry P. DeForest used fingerprinting in the New York Civil Service in 1902 by December 1905. So now, let's proceed to Allen-Hood test. What is the definitions of Allen-Hood test and who invented it? So, the Allen-Hood test, or the antigen antibody precipitin test for a species, was invented by Paul Allen-Hood in 1901 and could distinguish human blood from animal blood based on the discovery that the blood of different species had one or more discovery characteristic proteins. The test presented of a major breakthrough and came to have tremendous importance in forensic science. Now let's proceed to deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. So who was the first who developed the DNA? Forensic DNA analysis was first used in 1984 and it was developed by Sir Alec Jeffreys, who realized that variations in the genetic code could be used to identify individuals and to tell individuals apart from one another. It can distinguish by its DNA. The first application of DNA profile was used by Jeffries in a double murder mystery in small England towns in Narborough. In terms of DNA, our body consists a lot of informations that can be identified as ourselves. Like for examples, our hair, the fluid of our body, the blood, and even our saliva.